Good evening. Hello, guys. Welcome to another edition of Music Relish Podcast with Perry, Lou, and Mark Smith. And tonight, we're going to talk about bubblegum music. And we're going to talk about Daniel Lanois. We're going to talk, maybe have some music trivia. We're going to have a couple of one-hit wonders. And maybe other random relish we're going to talk about. So I think it's going to be a good show. Right, guys?
It's gonna be
How's
mock
everyone
show,
doing?
Boys. Mock show.
Mock show. Mock show.
I'll be speaking in German tonight.
Yeah. So because we're going to do a bubblegum show, we'll call this Random Sweet Relish. Because it's the Great American Bubblegum Show, right?
I'm a dill relish fan myself.
Okay.
Well, my favorite condiment is music relish. So.
Yeah. Well, tonight, because of
that was a
in honor
plug.
of bubblegum, it'll be sweet relish. Yep. So sugary relish. So
In pink.
So we've spoken in the past in one of our earlier shows, way back, about bubblegum pop music, right?
Yeah.
And Lou, you had said it kind of crosses over into sunshine pop, or right? There's cross categories.
Yeah.
But does anybody want to start in with some bubblegum songs or songs that they like in the bubblegum category?
There's obvious ones. It's a pretty derided genre. It doesn't. The critics never really speak well of it. It was a precursor to a lot of punk and a lot of pop too, because these songs were hits. These songs, whether you liked them or not, or however they were made, they were all over the radio in large numbers. The classic, I think, they say the one that kind of started it or is most known, and it's the Archie Sugar Sugar.
The Archie Sugar Sugar, yeah.
Yep. It's a great song. That's a great song.
It's a great song. Yeah.
It's a great pop song. Do you know who wrote it?
I do know who wrote it.
You do? I was surprised. Yeah.
It was written by Jeff Barry and Andy Kim.
Yep, Andy Kim.
We spoke about that on the old show. Yep.
Yeah. And Jeff Barry was one of the Brill Building superstars. He wrote a lot of big stuff with Ellie Greenwich. So that was a pop that was considered a novelty song of sorts, written by actually two heavyweights. Andy Kim has some hits. Yeah.
And of course, we read the story where they wanted who was the music director that they fired from the Monkees?
Was that Snuff Garrett? That wasn't
Don
Snuff
Kirshner.
Garrett?
Don Kirshner wanted the Monkees to record Sugar Sugar. And they said, no, we're not going to do it. Yeah. Well, let's give it a little sample here, all right? Like the hand claps.
Yeah.
Now, who hasn't heard that song, right?
And it's licensed as well. So that
yeah. Now, go ahead.
Yeah. Well, to give it some legitimacy, to give the genre some legitimacy, in 1970, Wilson Pickett did a cover of it. Number 4 in the R&B charts. It was.
I've never listened to it, but I did read that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, Sugar Sugar was a number 1. That was the number 1 hit.
Smash number 1 hit, 1969, I believe, right?
68, I think.
Do you know who one of the guys doing the hand claps on there is?
Joe Levine.
Ray Stevens.
Really? Ray Stevens?
Ray Stevens is one of the hand clap guys in there, yep.
Speaking of novelty songs. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And, of course, Ron Dante was, the vocalist.
Yeah, right.
Right, Ron Dante. He was the pop guy.
Right. And these weren't real bands, so to speak.
Correct. In fact, there's a song that you had mentioned to me that you like, and it was by the Cufflinks. Tracy, when I'm with you, the skies will be blue, right?
Yeah.
Now, here's the interesting thing. That was all Ron Dante.
Okay.
The Archie's guy. That was all him doing all the vocals on Tracy by the Cufflinks. All him.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So now, I didn't know if I consider that bubblegum. I mean, there's a certain...
I'm just saying that was him also. And
right.
So, but in that year, he had 2 songs in the top 10 with him on vocals, those 2 songs.
Some of these songs that we're going to talk about, I wonder if they really are bubblegum or just pop. Bubblegum is, there's a certain kitschy innocence to bubblegum. There's a criteria.
Bubblegum is pop. It's bubblegum pop. Yeah.
But it has a certain unspoken theme,
Well, I'll tell you.
Underlying sexual double entendre. Yeah.
I went on Spotify and did bubblegum. I got Spooky. I got Buddy Holly songs. None of that's bubblegum. So
yeah, I don't think they really know. But Lou, can I say one other thing about this guy? There's a song you had mentioned to me by the Detergents, leader of the Laundromat.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
That's Ron Dante also.
Is it really? Wow.
That's the same guy.
Oh, man.
And this guy, Ron Dante, he produced Barry Manilow's first 9 albums.
Wow.
So he became, record industry insider.
Yeah. A lot of the people that did this, they were smart. They were savvy. They were professional musicians. A lot of them.
Yeah.
They had other people like the 2 producers. Not Buddha Records. It's
Super K Productions. Yeah.
It was Jeffrey Kassenetz and Jeffrey Katz. They're behind all this music.
Jerry Kassenetz, and Jeffrey Katz. Yeah.
Yeah.
They were behind Crazy Elephant.
Crazy Elephant. And
what was their song?
Gimme some lovin'.
Gimme some lovin'.
Yeah.
Yep. And they were also 1910 Fruit Gum Company. They signed them too.
Yeah.
To Buddha Records.
They were a complete fabrication. 1910 Fruit Gum Company.
Really?
That was not a band. No. Now, Crazy Elephant, that was a number 12 hit. Now,
really?
The guy that wrote that was Joe Levine. He's the guy that sang Yummy, Yummy, Yummy. He was the singer of the Ohio Express. But it was
the same guy. That's the same guy, huh?
Right.
Yeah.
And they had shills go out and do performances. There was, it was a fake band.
Yeah. Well, you know what, Lou? Now that you mention it, it's the Cars.
Yeah.
Yummy, 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 I got love in my tummy.
Yeah, that's the Ohio Express. So you're saying that guy who sang that sang which song?
Well, he wrote Crazy Elephant. Give Me Some Lovin'. I think he was one of the writers.
Give me good love. Yeah. Okay.
But he's in a lot of that stuff from the Ohio Express and other stuff.
Mark, what have you got in the bubblegum pop category that you want to delve into a little bit?
Snoopy versus the Red Baron by the Royal Guardsmen.
Yeah, I got to tell you, we had those 45s, man, when I was a kid. Yeah. They were great, right?
80 men tried and 80 men died.
Yeah.
Love the organ.
That was German.
The century
in the clear blue skies
over Germany. And I guess they got permission from, they got license from Charles Schultz, I guess, right?
Yeah.
That's a funny little song. And they had a lot of songs like that. They had like Snoopy Christmas song and all kinds of other things too.
Snoopy's the best.
And when was that? This is all like about 1969, 1970, right? All that era right there.
It's later 60s, yeah. No, that also crosses over into novelty. So, bubblegum there's some of those early novelty songs were kind of precursor to bubblegum, which was a precursor to like bands like the Ramones and some of the pop that was kind of influenced like that.
It's great you said that because Joey Ramone was a huge fan of bubblegum pop. Huge fan.
Yeah, yes he was. In fact, the Ramones covered Indian Giver.
Really? The 1910 Fruit Gum Company?
Yeah. Who was the one that one of them had a whole bunch of hits. More than
1910 Fruit Gum Company had a bunch
that was
of
them. Yeah,
1, 2, 3, red light. Simple Simon Says, put your hands on your head, right?
Goody gumdrops.
Yeah.
Indian
I've got a sample of one here.
You have special delivery?
Much fun.
It's harmless. I'd like to play a game that is so much fun, right? Goody gumdrop. Yummy, yummy, yummy.
You know he's talking about sex.
Right. It's a double entendre, right, yeah. But it's harmless, right?
It's harmless. Yeah.
Kids could listen to it.
We did. I did. I was that target. I was that target.
Right,
so were you.
We didn't know what it meant,
No.
Excuse me, Lou. This
This
is an educational show. We will not talk about sex. We educate people on music.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay.
But if you listen to Yummy Yummy close, right?
Yeah.
After it goes, here you go.
And he does I call that a climaxing drum fill.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I guess Robert Plant picked up on that for A Whole Lot of Love.
Right?
Yeah.
Around the same time.
Yeah.
No, the Monkees, I don't consider the Monkees bubblegum.
You know, I think probably maybe the Davy Jones songs were leaning a little more towards that, you know, because he was the pretty boy, you know, the cutesy little guy, right?
Yeah. But, and even though it's critically derided, the late great Lester Bangs, I have a quote, it's a direct quote about the genre of bubblegum. The basic sound of rock and roll minus the rage, fear, violence, and anomie of rock. Now, I had to look up anomie. You know what that means? It's like the moral and ethical breakdown of structure. So there was nothing inherently dirty about it. But it was just, they had the basic, he said had the basic form and intents of rock and roll. So
there was a close link
rock and roll.
between...
I think the Archies should be in a rock and roll Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah.
Well, that would be one guy.
There was a connection between garage rock and bubblegum. Some of the harder edge bubblegum sound. Now on that list I had I'm Not Your Stepping Stone by Paul Revere. I don't consider that bubblegum. That's a pretty heavy song, but they considered it bubblegum.
But I will say there was a consideration of some Paul Revere songs being considered, not like, not the later ones. Maybe a couple, they were around for, from the mid 60s to, the 70s really, right?
Yeah.
I think some of those 60s one. Well, here's the Ohio Express, right? Yummy, 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 right?
Yep.
They also recorded this, the Ohio Express.
Where are you? We got
Oh, that's my childhood.
So that was that they did that too, and they cartoon pop. Became bubblegum cartoon pop, sort of, right?
Yeah, with the advent of those TV shows.
Absolutely,
They call it cartoon rock. So, but it's the same
called
thing.
Cartoon rock, yeah.
Right, because the Archies were a cartoon. It was a comic book before it was a band.
Right, yep.
And looking that up, it's funny because the Banana Splits theme was actually it cracked the top 100.
Really?
The Tra La La song, yeah. It was number 96 and the Billboard Hot 168.
One banana, two banana. What was that, Saturday morning?
One banana, two banana, three banana, four. Was it five bananas playing? No, four.
I never knew what that was.
It's four banana, three banana, two banana, one. Four bananas playing in the bright blue sun. So that is an early example of psychedelic bubblegum.
Yeah, and I never knew, but 30 years ago, you told me, like, I was laughing my ass off. You told me bingo, fleagle, drooper, and snork.
Fleagle, bingo, drooper, and snork. We can have a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's
lots of fun for everyone.
Yep. And it was so famous, like the Dickies recorded it.
That's great. Oh man.
They did, yeah.
That's a serious drum sound.
Yeah, the Dickies.
Yeah, really, man. That's great. That is fantastic. You came prepared today, Perry.
DJ Perry.
He's on the money.
Bubblegum, man. Bubblegum. But I found it interesting that, some like the same guy who sang the Archie song sang all of, Tracy, when I'm with you. And also the leader of the Laundromat. That's the same guy.
Smart. Its heyday, I guess, early to mid 70s, bubblegum was kind of on the wane. Some of those TV shows, they all had music on them. Josie and the Pussycats.
There's another one, Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah, they made movies out of it.
Guitars and ears that match.
I think so. I think it went guitars and Cadillacs. So if you figure, if you were 8 years old in '69, you were the target for that. So.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
This stuff didn't bother me. I was probably like this, but I'm one of the younger of a larger family. So my older siblings had the Zeppelin records, and Crosby, Stills, Nash, and listen, you hear that too, but that was on AM radio, and you couldn't escape it.
When you're another one, Mark.
I don't have nearly as much as you. I came wanting to be schooled by you guys because I got to remind you, when you told me you had a podcast, this was the first episode I listened to, your original Bubblegum episode.
Oh yeah,
and I learned.
That's why
a lot
there's no
from
notes for it.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, here I have a little history here. If you listen to this, right?
Yeah.
Hey, little woman, please make up your mind.
Bobby Sherman.
Bobby Sherman. That's not bubblegum. That's not bubblegum.
It is.
No.
Check this shit out. Check this shit out. The guy who wrote it, Danny Jansen, right?
I don't care. Yeah.
He wrote Scooby Dooby Doo. He wrote the Partridge Family theme.
Okay.
Yeah.
But they wrote a lot of stuff. I don't think he had a variety show. I don't know. I just think that's pop. I wouldn't call that bubblegum.
Well,
in my history of
guess
rock
who's
and roll,
playing
I'm not
guitar on
gonna
that? Guess who plays guitar on that Bobby Sherman song? James Burton.
Wow.
Okay.
Jim Gordon is the drummer.
They didn't do no bubblegum stuff, man.
That was Jim Gordon on drums and
I believe it.
Dan Randy on piano. So it was just a little wrecking crew, and Jim Horn was on
Minor Wrecking Crew.
Yeah. Yep.
Bobby Sherman with his stiff hair.
Let me ask you guys a question. Do you know the song "Elusive Butterfly" by Bob Lind?
I've heard it. I have heard it.
That's considered bubblegum. I listened to it. I really liked it. I didn't consider it bubblegum.
I've heard "Elusive Butterfly." Who is it? Who sings it?
Bob Lind.
That's an obscurity, Mark. What we do.
I'm smart.
That was a showstopper.
He's really smart. Not like people say.
Hold on. I got a snippet here.
Is that what you do, Mark? You come on to the show and you start reciting shit from books just to embarrass me and embarrass my friend? Is that what you do?
Yeah.
I'm not embarrassed. Speak for yourself, man.
All right, here we go. Listen, real quick.
That was from, Good Will Hunting.
I didn't see it.
Oh, yeah.
Glenn Campbell.
Yeah.
It sounds like a Glenn Campbell song.
Who is that?
Bob Lind. I never heard of him before.
No.
I've heard that song many times. I never knew who it was.
Very, very, what's his name? I just said his name. Sounds like
Glenn Campbell. Yeah, that sounds like the adult pop, contemporary pop of the late 60s of that time.
But that was on a list of bubblegum songs. I think they, like Perry said, they're just putting in pop songs and they're considering it all bubblegum.
I saw some stuff there too that was just like, no, it's not. It was just, it was pop and kind of, even if it's clean, doesn't mean it's necessarily bubblegum.
Mm-hmm.
The bubblegum was a certain, there were a lot of, Ohio Express had a lot of hits, but there were a lot of one hits in there. It wasn't like real career oriented,
right?
Thing,
the Ohio Express had chewy, but it's just another release.
So bad. Yeah. That's pretty bad. Yeah. But did you know Graham Goldman of 10cc was actually part of the Ohio Express, and one of their things where he actually recorded a single with them. I don't know what it is, but an early band with Joe Walsh in it, being from Ohio or raised in Ohio mostly. He was in some kind of conglomeration that was part of what the Ohio Express were at that time. Yeah, briefly, obviously.
Wow.
But, yeah. So and within that, there were music industry people in it. You have Jeff Barry in that genre. And, Neil Bogart, of Buddha Records, of Casablanca Records, these guys were smart.
Neil Bogart was, yep.
They were smart.
Well, Buddha Records was a subsidiary of Kama Sutra.
Right.
And they're both pop labels.
Super K was distributed or whatever, had to deal with Buddha as well.
Within, the production company was within, within that. And also, I also read, too, I don't know this, but I read that they were so obsessed, and they apparently they got this from Phil Spector, that when you're sending records out to DJs, you would not put a B-side on it or something. You would put, the A-side and sometimes
backwards or something.
Backwards, or sometimes I heard that it would be an instrumental of the A-side, which, like, for karaoke, it's perfect, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to find those singles, right?
Yeah.
The flip side, but not all of them, but some of them were issued like that.
Yeah.
Where they were, almost double A side.
And that was done to say there's one side you should listen to. So it gave them no
Correct.
choice
To
really
the
but
DJ,
to play.
yeah.
Don't
Yep.
give them another option, especially if they want that song to be a hit.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
I've got another bubblegum song here. Do you want to hear it?
I want to hear all of them.
I've got one more.
And I don't want sugar-free bubblegum. I want sugar in it. Yeah.
It's almost all the same, right? It's harmless.
Except for the drumming.
Nice drum sound.
Hal
Who's
Blaine.
drumming on that? You think it was?
It is Hal Blaine, I'm telling you.
It is? Well, you know that for a fact.
I know that for a fact. Indisputable
Wow,
fact.
that is great. Yeah.
That's Hal Blaine. Yeah, the tom-toms sound fantastic. That's Tommy Rowe.
So that was recorded probably in L.A.
Yeah, well, his other song, his other big song was?
Tommy Rowe?
Yeah.
Yeah, Sheila.
Yeah. Which was
Yeah,
a
a lot of
total,
them, actually,
total Buddy Holly ripoff. But I get that. I mean, that sounds bubblegum. The music, the instrumentation sounds bubblegum.
Yeah.
I
But
think
Tommy Rowe Dizzy is bubblegum music. Yeah.
Yeah, and but he would probably want to not be thought of as such. But oh well. Okay. You got your footnote.
Yep.
Can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
Of course.
Would you consider, because Ed King from Leonard Skinner was in, the Strawberry Alarm Clock, would you consider Incense and Peppermints a bubblegum song?
No, Psychedelic Garage.
That's exactly what I thought. But again, I'm looking up these lists.
Yeah, I've seen it too. Yeah.
Well, I Spotify probably, because it comes on a pop chart, or whatever it may be. They cross over. Yeah.
I just went on a YouTube list of songs, and it was on there. But it's not innocent enough for bubblegum, in my opinion.
No, it was not aimed. It was not aimed for 8-year-olds. No, the teen audience was not mine. It was acid heads. It was hippies.
Yeah.
Damn hippies.
Let me play one more thing for Lou.
Damn hippies.
Okay. Then play for your son. Legal, bingo, Drooper and Snark.
Legal.
I want to watch it now and eat a big bowl of Cap'n Crunch. Eat a box of Cap'n Crunch.
Smoke a big bowl before you do that.
They always said that Nickelodeon, most of the viewers were adults. You didn't hit the camera, you missed.
Oh, he's doing the shutting me up. I was only kidding.
That's okay, no. This is
We
a
haven't
clean
smoked
family.
weed since the 70s.
I haven't done music. It was since Nam.
Since
I
the
just
Nam.
drank.
Yeah.
But interesting, Hal Blaine played drums on one of those. Jim Gordon plays drums on the Bobby Sherman song. Like, yeah, man, pop music, whatever subcategory. Sunshine Pop, the Fifth Dimension, right? That was the Wrecking Crew was the band for them, right?
Yes. Almost completely. That was all them. It's funny. Like I guess that song, Tommy Rowe's song, Dizzy, that came out like '69, I think.
They were like 69 or 70. Yeah, mostly 1969. Yeah.
And given the fact that Hal Blaine is on drums, going into the '70s, that's when that work stopped for the Wrecking Crew. They do. Carol Kay played on the MASH TV theme. They did work, but that concentration was almost over at that point when all these other artists were using their touring bands and the musicians were of a caliber where they could actually do it.
The drums slew on that song that Hal Blaine was on. They were massive sounding. He definitely.
Those were great drums. That was a great drum sound too.
Yeah. The classic Hal Blaine drum kit has about 13 tom-toms on it. It was a lot of going from the 8-inch all the way down to the 18-inch tom-tom.
Yeah.
But he was the man. Hal Blaine.
Damn. So, do we have any more bubblegum, or do we want to move on to something else?
Well, let's see. Maybe there might be something there. Another song that comes under the Super K Productions thing was the Music Explosions, A Little Bit of Soul.
I was just going to say that.
I spoke with Mark about that just before, because that was 1966. That was just before the bubblegum era, but they were on they were like signed by the Super K guys.
They were signed by it, yeah,
right?
Yeah.
And I had that 45, by the way. Well, when I say that, my sister had the 45 because I was a young pup. But do when you're feeling low and the fish won't bite. That's a great song, man.
It really, these are good. I love this. It really
it's like garage pop, you know? Yeah.
And, you know, and the fact is, it's probably cool now to play some of those songs. You know, in one of the clubs in Asheville, you know, they have this yacht rock review comes around maybe once a year or so. But I wouldn't be the least bit surprised if they threw something like that. And a little bit of soul that has almost like an American R&B sound, you know, not uncommon with other songs of like that at that time. But I guess you said it became bubblegum by virtue of the record company they were on. Do you know its chart placement? Do you know what it hit?
Top 10?
Number 2.
Really?
Wow.
A number 2 song, man. Top 5, baby.
Wow, yeah. Little bit of soul, a little bit of soul.
Yeah. And
I like the break when and you really start grooving. Yeah.
Back to the hook.
Yep.
Dude, it's a riff.
Swing it around, whatever they call that thing in songwriting, yeah.
Right? The turnaround.
The turnaround, yeah.
The turnaround.
Yep.
The common courtesy of a turnaround.
Yep.
Now,
how come all you guys sit on your helmets?
So you don't get your balls blown off.
Calmly take the helmet off and put it underneath.
We can't talk about bodily functions, but we can talk about parts of the body. All right.
Well, that was a movie quote.
Okay, now if I have something I want to do at the end of the show in relation to bubblegum, unless yeah. But I'm going to wait.
So where
don't
do
lose
we
that famous
go?
temper of yours.
Hey, Mark.
Yeah.
Oh wait.
Question.
Bubblegum may not be done. Sorry, Mark.
Oh, okay. Let's roll, man. Let's keep rolling with the bubblegum.
It's just a couple of things. There was one thing I noticed, and I listened to it. It's considered bubblegum from '71. It's by the Sugar Bears. The song is called "You Are the One." It was designed with a cereal. You remember Sugar Crisp with the Bing Crosby-like bear with the sweater and the hat?
Super Sugar Crisp.
It was Bing Crosby. Anyway, but I looked up who's on it. I listened to it at a YouTube clip. It's preposterous. There's a lot of tom-toms on it. But Kim Carnes is singing on it somewhere. And
really?
Yes, and this is 71, and Glenn Frey of the Eagles did some production work on it. So that's 71. Wow. That's before the first Eagles record came out. I don't know what he did on it. I wasn't sure I could hear him singing on it. But so Glenn Frey and Kim Carnes doing some work to stay alive, maybe, get in there.
Wow. Cool.
Be an artist. Also, Little Willie by the Sweet. That's almost bubblegummy. By Sweet.
That was their first single. I remember hearing that. And in fact, that was like 1977?
Maybe 77. It was written by is it Nicky Chin or Vinny the Chin Giganti? I was in the olive oil business with your father.
Yeah. In fact, didn't they say that as far as like Buddha Records or Kama Sutra Records, one of the founders was Sonny Franchise was like one of the founders of, Kama Sutra Records or stuff.
I'd like to get out of my contract, please. I really don't want to. That's like with the Sopranos episode when Christopher's producing the band. He makes them do drugs to stay awake.
I never really saw the Sopranos. I got to tell you, I never really saw them. Yeah. I know you guys have seen every episode.
Of course I have.
Yeah.
That's a very funny episode. But that song "Little Willie" was written by the guy Nicky Chin and also Mike Chapman. Is that the producer of Blondie and et cetera? Mike Chapman.
I don't know.
It probably is. Well, anyway, apparently the Sweet hated that song. They didn't want to do it. It becomes their first single.
Oh, it's because it wasn't one of theirs. Okay.
Yeah, so number 3.
What I was saying is I was driving in the car with my mom on the way back over the bridge, over the Passaic River, visiting, my grandmother or my aunt or something. And Little Willie was on the radio. Little Willie, Will, right? Yeah. And then I think the news came down that Elvis had died or something like that.
Oh, really?
So that's when it was. 77 or whatever year Elvis died, yeah.
August 16th, 1977.
Well, that's when it was, yeah. That's when I was in the car. Little Willie was on the radio, and then the news came down about the king is dead.
The king is dead.
The king is gone, but he's not forgotten.
I was playing catch in the front yard, and actually out in the street with my brother and my sister. That's when he goes, Elvis died. But that's like halcyon days, playing catch in the front yard in summer. Yeah. Elvis is dead.
Yeah, you're an American, man.
I'm an American, man.
God bless America.
Oh, God. I'm proud to be.
Hey, Mark.
Is
Mark,
that for bubblegum?
You still have more bubblegum? Because I'm out, man.
Well, yeah, I'm pretty much out. I mean, the few I had, like Snoopy and stuff, but my like Lou said, the number one bubblegum song, for me, it was always Sugar Sugar. And I can listen to that song 50 times in a row and still enjoy it.
Yeah. It's written great. And like I said, Wilson Pickett covered it and did his own version. Yeah. But the lyrics are great,
That might be one of the best songs ever written in the pop genre, right?
And pop music, even if it's bubblegum,
Yeah. Well, what fascinates me about bubblegum is that, and I picked it up from the original show, was how many notable people, like growing up, I just it's just hack musicians. I didn't realize how many big time. Lou, you mentioned Andy Kim while you guys were talking. I looked up Andy Kim. I'm like, oh my God, it's like, these are big guys.
He had a lot of records of his own. Yep.
Yeah.
Rock Me Gently. What was the big one?
Pretty much that one, I think.
Baby, I love you.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, that was a cover. Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. And it almost has a bubblegum sound.
Yeah. He was born He's another weird. He's born in Montreal. Grew up in Montreal.
Yeah.
Somehow ended up in L.A. Yeah.
And also back then in that bubblegum time, when you had a song and it says, baby, I love you. Come on, baby. Na, 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 na. All the songs, na, 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 hey, hey, goodbye. That's just what you did in the pop songs, right?
They had vocal arrangements. Na, 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 na. Yeah, so in harmony, it's
Cowsills, case in point, right? Lou Adler apparently was a great vocal arranger, too, with, the Mamas and the Papas. Yeah.
Who did Baby, I Love You? Who was that?
That's Andy Kim. Andy
Kim.
It was recorded by many people, though. Yeah,
right? Yeah, it was. Yeah. But I think he had Rock Me Gently, Rock Me. That's another one of the songs sounds like Neil Diamond. It could be Neil Diamond.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, there was a connection there, too, because, there was like the Brill Building connection. Jeff Barry wrote some songs with Andy Kim. And
Jeff Barry wrote one of the biggest flops in history was River Deep Mountain High with Ellie Greenwich.
Yeah, yep. And Phil Spector was one of the co-writers on that or something, right? Yeah. Man.
That was a flop for Tina Turner?
Well, who wrote the melody? I don't know, man, but it's bad.
The song was written by the three of them.
Okay.
Jeff Barry, Ellie Greenwich, and Phil Spector. It was Tina Turner. Was he in that? It was Ike and Tina. No, was it just Tina?
Yeah, no, that was Ike and Tina Turner. Yeah, back then, yeah.
But it was, the anticipation was as such that it just didn't live up to the hype. There was changing times too, but and
I'd rather hear someone in the opera sing it. Do I love you, mama?
River Deep Mountain High.
Well, I'm just asking because in music history, that's like talked about all the time. I didn't know it was a flop. I didn't know it bombs. Yeah.
My opinion is it's just not a very good song. It's just not. But that's almost not unlike the Beach Boys when they did Heroes and Villains. It was a little weird. Like, our friend from Knoxville, Sot Mitter, his father, was it? No. He in barbershop. One of his father was in barbershop quartets. My friend Steve, his father was in barbershop quartets. And when he heard Heroes and Villains, he goes, "That's like a barbershop quartet." But it was just too weird in a sense for
thing. So there was one reviewer in particular said it sounds like barbershop quartet stuff to to sort of
but
snide it off.
That was Phil Spector's when he was at that rise going up. That was his first. That was a big stumble or a failure. It just didn't work. Didn't sell. And it's not a very good song.
Yep.
They can't all be hits. They can't all be hits.
Hey, Mark, can I ask you a question?
No, they can. No.
Mark Smith, can I ask you a question?
Lou, Colonel Perry, yes.
Kurtz.
General apathy. Where are your 2,000 albums? You tell me you have 2,000 albums. Where are they? I want to see them.
They are at my daughter's.
I want to see them behind you.
So here's the story. When I had that apartment fire on our roof, it was amazing. We were outside watching the fire department spray the roof. We knew water was pouring in the apartment. I just thought of the guitars and the records because my family was out, so it's fine. You know?
Of course, yeah.
When they allowed us to go in, I walked in. Everything was wet. The kitchen had 2 inches of water on the floor, but the records were in the one part of the room, along with the guitars, that were not affected.
Didn't get soaked by the fire department?
Nope. The ceiling held there. So my son-in-law, Takena, started grabbing them. He grabbed my guitars first, then the records.
A future guest on the show.
Yeah, and we got them out, and they're in Suffern, New York at my daughter's house, and I got to get them back because I got some here. I got a few. I got about 100 here, but I got to get them in, and I'll turn the camera when I get them in here.
I thought you had them in that atomic-powered storage unit or somewhere.
Oh, they're in Iron Mountain.
Too damn expensive.
Atomic storage.
Mark has Iron Mountain connections.
Yeah.
Drop the bomb on that thing. Go ahead.
I know somebody. I know someone that can do it. I know someone. So.
Oh, I have a rock and roll trivia question. You guys ready for it?
I'm ready.
I'm going to beat
Mark,
Lou.
You ready?
I'm going to beat Lou on this one.
All right.
Go for it.
It's who was the first woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
I'm done.
I got it.
Go.
Dolly Parton. No.
Mark?
Bonnie Raitt.
Just think about it. First woman inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Darlene.
Going back to,
Darlene Love. Darlene.
There's so many singers in that period, yeah.
Aretha Franklin.
Should have known.
Okay.
Yep.
And that's like a non-controversial. That deserves to be in, definitely.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Yep.
It's not Carly Simon.
But she's got a great mouth.
Oh, and by the way, if you enjoy our audio podcast, you can listen to us on Spotify, on Anchor, on Apple Podcast, on Google Podcast, on Podchaser, on Pocket Cast, and Overcast as well.
And on YouTube. And if you like what you hear, please click like and subscribe.
And I've checked out Overcast and Pocket Cast, and they have really good audio. They have really good audio on Pocket Cast. They're a nifty little site for listening to podcasts.
Oh.
And if you have trouble with the Facebook page, the guy that runs it, he's just always asleep. So just direct your complaints at him. I won't say who it is, but yeah.
Yeah, you can reach Mark. It's Mark Smith at 719. What is it? What's the email?
His name rhymes with dark.
We don't give out personal emails on the show. And Smith7831 at
Music
Gmail.
Knowledge Podcast at gmail.com. You can leave some snide remarks. We'll accept them, but we don't block them. Don't worry.
But me and Louie heard a song from Born to Run on the radio in the car, and I said, Mark drives by that studio where that was recorded.
Every morning.
Studio.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. I love that I drive to work past a little bit of rock history. It's a nice feeling.
Yeah. Very cool.
So anyone else have anything they want to talk about before we sign off the air?
Well, we're
the 38 minutes here, man. Okay.
Come on. Hey, can I throw something real quick in? Guys, just throw something really quick.
You don't have to do anything real quick. Take your time.
No, it's because we got this week. I've been waiting for this for years because legal things kept it out of coming out. But Animals from Pink Floyd was remixed. I always thought the original album sounded like crap, and it's fantastic. It's really fantastic.
What year did it originally come out? Because my sister had those records, and I remember that was the one with the pig on the cover originally, right?
Yeah. Came out in 77. Yeah, 77. That was after their big Wish You Were Here album, and it was the one that came out before The Wall. So it kind of got overshadowed by The Wall, and I've seen Roger Waters on his last 3 tours. He's pretty much done one song on each tour. There's only 5 songs on the album. So,
well, there's the thing. I remember looking to open up my sister's record, and it's one song was called Dogs.
Yeah.
Another song was called Pig. You're right. There are 5 songs.
It's Pigs.
They're not 20 minutes long.
Pigs, but, 3 different ones, and Sheep.
Yes. Hence the name of the record, right?
That was a tour too. I think my brother saw them on that tour.
Yeah, they were doing stadium tours. They played that football stadium in Philadelphia.
Yeah, those were the shows to see. Having never seen Pink Floyd, I've never.
Oh, that football stadium in Philadelphia is where Live Aid was too, right?
Is that JFK Stadium?
Yeah.
The Live Aid in the USA was that Philadelphia Spectrum or whatever it was called. Yeah.
Well, on this tour, when they were playing in Montreal at Olympic Stadium, which some people may know from the Fanfare for the Common Man video from ELP, that huge stadium. Mm-hmm. Roger Waters was getting so fed up with the whole us separated from the audience. He was pissed off. It was at that show they spit on somebody in the audience, and it was the genesis of developing the character Pink for the wall. And then David Gilmour was so out of it that they had a guy named Snowy White playing backup guitar.
Well, what do you mean he was so out of it? Why was Dave Gilmour out of it?
He was, for whatever reason, he just was. It was a huge stadium tour, and I think that when you do these stadiums, you're separated from the audience, so you don't feel like you're interacting with the crowd. But what he said was he was able to go off stage because Snowy White looks like David Gilmour. He left the stage. No one knew any better. He walked out into the audience and he watched part of the show from the audience. He's like, I don't have to be up on that fucking stage. It's like, got a guy that looks like me.
You're not kidding. Serious?
Yeah. But this was like a low point for the band as far as playing live, Did
Roger Waters really spit on an audience member?
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, the guy must have been acting like a bonehead. Like he was, some of these idiots at the rock concerts,
So he gobbed on him.
Yep. I'll get the specifics for next week, actually. Yeah.
Punk.
Was it an English soccer player snob, like a snot bomb? I don't know.
Oh, man. Otherwise known as the farmer's hanky.
There you go.
You do that.
Well, apparently in the UK, if a band liked you, they would spit at you, they'd gob at you.
They're sure they're Hep C with you.
Well, one time, odd that you would say that because one time somebody gobbed in Joe Strummer's mouth and he got hepatitis.
Yeah. Now, what else was Snowy White known for? Music trivia.
All right, so you're going to beat me on this. I know he was a big blues player, and when he was asked to join Pink Floyd, he had never even listened to them. He did continue to play with Roger Waters for years, so he's tight with him.
Mm-hmm.
You tell me, Lou, what's he known for?
Wasn't he in Thin Lizzy?
Yes, I'm sorry. Yeah.
I mean, in conjunction, but he was the guitar. I'm not sure if he's what he was known, but he was in Thin Lizzy. So
that's right. He's on one album, and it was kind of near the end there. Yeah.
Was it? Okay. Yeah. Okay. I wasn't sure that's him when the boys were back in town or jail.
No, that's way back.
Doing what?
Okay.
What kind of instrument? He was a guitar player. He was one of those guitar players.
Yeah, he's very
maybe
bluesy.
I don't know if he was in the band. Yeah.
Yeah, he's very bluesy.
No, I always like that. I'm saying that's the Steely Dan song. Down. Yes.
That could be Woody Woodpecker. I got it.
Steely Dan, Thin Lizzy, Steely Lizzy.
But what I was saying is the thing with animals, and I think that just a quick technical geek note.
Mm-hmm.
When Pink Floyd built their studio, someone made the stupid decision to use DBX noise reduction instead of Dolby. Now, I don't know if you guys have any experience with DBX.
I know a little bit about Dolby and DBX, yeah. Yep.
DBX sucks.
Cassette players.
Yeah, DBX is just not for professional studios. So the album was recorded with DBX. So James Guthrie had to not only get the separate tracks, but he had to get them encoded properly. The thing with DBX is when I was in mastering, I could never get DBX to properly work. It seemed to boost the highs a little too much or whatever. So I think that the original album, it's very claustrophobic sounding. The drums sound horrible. But if you listen to this remix, he did a fabulous job.
But it was really just a technology that someone created that they wanted you to sign up for. Right? And Dolby was a technology. DBX was a technology. Use ours. It's better than Dolby. And don't use Dolby, right?
Yeah, and that's my opinion. I mean, I've met people that love DBX, but there's a reason why Dolby is the standard in studios when analog is being used.
DBX, to me, it always knocked out any high. It just like flattened it out or made it a little bottomy or something.
Yeah, and it kind of a compression thing. Like it didn't give many. You couldn't get a lot of sonics with DBX. So why they did that, I don't know. They were setting up their own studio. They probably just listened to somebody like, "Hey, we'll pay you a lot of money to set up the studio."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Whatever influence, whatever sound engineers. Some people probably like DBX,
Yeah.
Influenced that way, but who remixed it? Did you say that?
James Guthrie. He's been an engineer with them for years. He worked on The Wall. So he's been remastering their albums for the past 10 years. And it's kind of like a Steve Wilson. Sorry, Tom, I mentioned Steve Wilson. Where he'll remaster it. You don't get this huge improvement. He just knows the little nuances to make it overall better. I bought the remastering, not the remix of The Wall. And initially I was disappointed. But over time, I got to see what he did. He just made it just a little better. I'm hoping for a Wall remix, so that may be next. But strongly recommended.
Wait. What do you mean a Wall remix? So who's going to remix it? Bob Ezrin?
Now,
or Steven Wilson?
Nah, Bob Ezrin should be a part of it. But James Guthrie, what he did with Animals, he was there for The Wall.
We don't have to talk about that here. Whatever people do behind their own closed doors is their own business.
Hey. Mastering
I don't care what he do with Animals. That's weird.
And, well, also I master behind closed doors too, so it's like.
So, Mark, I understand you were at Radio City Music Hall just the other day at a Porcupine Tree show.
I'm lucky. In the last month, I've had 2 absolutely soul-stirring concerts that I've seen, and I got my kids to see Roger Waters. I got my son to see Porcupine Tree.
Mm-hmm.
What a show. Just, and it's the venue too. I've never seen a bad show at Radio City because the venue is so good, But my first time seeing Porcupine Tree, because by the time Sat got me into Porcupine Tree, they had already stopped touring. Steve Wilson put them on hiatus. So I thought, I'm never going to see them. So when they did this tour, I snatched tickets up and I got pretty good seats. And they came out and they started with that first song on In Absentia, the album that we talked about a while back. And then I thought of Sat because when they came out for the second set, they started off with Fear of a Blank Planet, which is the first song I ever heard from them when Sat gave me that CD. And Perry, you and I were driving back from Lou's and I played it,
Stop Mitter Sing.
Yeah. Oh man, thank you, Sat, for getting me into it.
The man formerly from Knoxville. Now I'm not going to tell you where he is.
And
he's somewhere in America.
So, speaking of visitation,
that's very shiny. That's very shiny, Mark.
Yeah, really.
They figured out how to get me to drop $100.
So what was that? That was a T-shirt signed by the band. How many guys were on stage? How many people were on stage?
It's a lithograph of the In Absentia album signed, so that's why he's dropped the money. So it's the 3 core guys. It's Steve Wilson, Richard Barbieri on keyboards, and the great Gavin Harrison on drums. Then they got the augmented. The original bass player, he wasn't available, or they didn't ask him. And they got a guitar player who was just fabulous with them. So yeah, it was awesome. Can you hear me, by the way? You guys froze up.
Yeah, we can. No, okay. I'm hearing some weird noise. I think it's.
I can hear you, Major Tom. Yeah.
It sounds like the air conditioning breaking through and then stopping, or like
there was some. It
sounds like a printer, like a printer spitting something out. That's what.
I don't have a printer, so it couldn't be me. Yeah.
I keep hearing like an air whistle, like a train horn in the background. I hear.
Really? That was last week.
Maybe it's me. So, just to say that it was 3 hours of just. I stood the whole time, and I didn't get tired. But
your seat was on the floor.
Everyone stood up.
You weren't up in a balcony or anything, right?
No. And I got to tell you something. The Porcupine Tree crowd, it's like every time you go see a concert, you always get a numbskull that wants to either talk or scream.
Numbskull.
At Roger Waters, I had this drunk guy. Roger
That's
had
a great word.
Numbskull. Roger Waters had a bottle on his piano, and he kept drinking from it, and he goes, "It's water." And I had this drunk guy said, "It's not water." I'm like, after the 50th time, shut up, Porcupine Tree's crowd was there to see the show. They were all cool. They stood up.
Right, yeah.
Nobody was like getting stupid. Nobody was like just totally drunk and staggering around.
Right.
These Porcupine Tree fans want to hear the music, and they're there for that. And they appreciate it. So,
and Radio City holding about maybe 3,000 and change.
I don't know. I thought I heard 5,000, but
5 tops. Yeah, 5 grand. Yeah, but so that's a nice venue.
Yeah,
it's not 25,000 people.
Yep. And that's
the concert hall.
Yeah, and if you see a show there, it's great from the balcony, but it's from the floor. It's just
the floor. The sound is better on the floor, is it not? Yeah.
The PAs, the way they do concert sound now, they don't have to blast your ears out. They can make it loud without deafening you, which I really appreciate with this new. Yeah. It's the sound mixing, but it's obviously the PA stacks hanging. And I didn't have to, like I said, it was really loud. The bass shook you, but my ears weren't fatigued. It's fantastic. So anyway,
and you got to see one of your favorite bands.
And thumbs up all my 5 thumbs, and I spent $100 on their autographs. Thanks, guys.
You shouldn't let that information out because Nancy, the lovely Nancy, does she know you dropped $100?
Yeah, because
T-shirt.
Anthony was with me, and he told her.
Of course,
she was cool. She knows how much I like him, but. I'm glad I got Anthony there because when Sot got me into Porcupine Tree, that Fear of a Blank Planet, Anthony was a teenager. He loved that album. And then he kind of got into Steve Wilson. I took him with me to see Steve Wilson solo, but I'm like, you want to see Porcupine Tree? And so it was good. He enjoyed it too.
Cool. All right. So we agreed like we were going to talk about Daniel Lanois, the great producer. Right? The great musician, great producer.
Yep.
And he's done so much work that we kind of agreed that we were going to pick one of our favorite records that he produced or co-produced, either with Brian Eno or with Peter Gabriel or with whoever he worked with, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So does anybody want to go first about the great Daniel Lanois?
Now, we all mentioned the albums we want to talk about. Mark, I think you were going between one or the other, between the Bob Dylan or a U2 record.
I went with, it was hard. It was actually, in addition to that, all the U2 albums did, but I picked Unforgettable Fire because that was the first time he worked with him. He was actually a co-producer with Brian Eno. He was actually brought in originally because he was Brian Eno's engineer. He became the producer.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a big change of sound for the band. They went from War, which was very basic, bare bones, brittle sounding, to that great percussion sound. That's the Daniel Lanois sound on that album. He really opened up Larry Mullen like as a drummer. He helped him improve. So that album, to me, that's like my favorite album that he was involved with.
All right, so help me out. So as far as War, right?
Yeah.
What year are we talking about? Because I'm not a big U2 fan, so I can gauge it's the 1980s, right? So from War, their next record was the record with Daniel Lanois and Brian Eno.
So War was...
What was on War?
War was 1983. Steve Lillywhite produced it, and it had Sunday Bloody Sunday and New Year's Day, 2 of my favorite songs of theirs.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The early hits that we first were aware of. You know?
Yeah.
They got them on the radio.
Yeah, and that drum sound was very it was just very can't describe it, but it was. You go to Unforgettable
Sunday, Bloody Sunday.
What I liked about it is even given the advent of all the new digital technology with the drum machines, the early electric drum kits, U2 at that time had a very basic drum sound.
Yes.
Sunday Bloody Sunday, New Year's Day, the drum sounds like it sounds like my snare drum in my room over here. It's just, they mic'd it. They didn't alter it. That was before the big production sounds, were bigger of the 80s. But they kept that very bare and stripped down on the drum.
Yes.
That's why I kind of liked it. To me, it sounded raw. It sounded different and fresh. It really did.
Yeah.
It's funny. They're one of the bands that lately I've been trying to listen to things that I've not been listening to for a while. Like bands I was kind of ambivalent about. So I've let myself listen to some U2 things. And along the way, I'm like, they had some great songs. I claim to be ambivalent, but when I'm put my filters down or whatever, I'm like, that was a good one. That was a good one.
Yeah.
So on this what's the record you're talking about? Joshua Tree?
No, The Unforgettable Fire.
The Unforgettable Fire.
Okay, the hits on that album, they had Pride in the Name of Love and Bad. I don't know if you remember. Not the Michael Jackson
How does that go? Of course, Pride in the Name of Love. Everyone on the planet has heard that song, right?
Yeah, Bad is just, it wasn't a hit, but every U2 fan knows it. It's about heroin addiction. You can't really sing much off the album because of Brian Eno's involvement. It's very orchestral, lots of sound. But the first song, The Homecoming, what hit me, and back when I was a freshman in high school when that album came out, I put it on expecting to hear that bare bones war sound. Yeah. And it opens up with the classic, what we now know of the Daniel Lanois sound of the rhythms. This is the drums.
Yeah, blew you away, right?
Yep, and it's not like snare drum. He's hitting
Yeah, or he's throwing the snare function off the snare drum and using the snare drum as a compound. It's a very that's a trick to do too. It's atmospheric. So that you said the Lanois thing and going into future U2, that was like the precursor to it, maybe. But
yeah, and that's what changed their sound forever. It totally changed them. If they didn't change, they may not have been who they are, become who they were, because they did need to change their state. Steve Lillywhite was ready to do their next album, and they said, no, we need another. That was Bono that wanted to change directions. Yeah. If Eno was involved alone, I don't think the album would have come out that way, because Eno it was a very intense album from what I hear to make. Daniel Lanois, he talk about, that might be his first big record, because I looked at what he did before that. He did a lot of stuff, but he showed up for that album because they had to finish it in 2 weeks, and he did it. He was there 20 hours a day, and fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah.
Well, that's what he did also, but he's been friends with Brian Eno for a long time.
Yeah.
They've done projects together with, they've done projects for Apollo, for NASA, where they create this music for these, out of space, this ethereal music. These are just great guys.
Yeah, yeah.
And also, he also produced, what did he produce? Octung Baby and the Joshua Tree with Brian Eno for U2, right? And these are Grammy-winning records. Right?
I'd say Octung Baby's my favorite U2 album. That's every song that flows so good, and it's Daniel Lanois.
What was name some songs off Octung Baby, if you recall?
Bad. Not bad.
One.
Thank you.
One's on that. Okay.
Yeah.
That's one of the songs I've heard recently. That's a great song.
Yeah.
So, Brian Eno, you think of him as being more of electronic ethereal. He can produce rock. Is Brian Eno known for collaboration? He seemed like a guy you just work alone.
Brian Eno, what I got from him is, first of all, he's not a musician. So he comes from almost like an electronic background. And he does the soundscapes and stuff.
Yeah, they both do. So does Daniel Lanois.
Yeah.
But the difference is Daniel's a musician. Eno, as I said, with Unforgettable Fire, he got very frustrated with the band because Bono was taking time to come up with the lyrics. He's very, these are the hours we're working. Whereas Daniel Lanois was able to just corral it all together.
Yeah. I mean, Daniel Lanois did the music, all that little sort of the theory of music for Sling Blade. That's all Daniel Lanois.
Yeah, really?
Background music you hear in Sling Blade is Daniel Lanois.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yep.
I thought that was the front porch band that did all that stuff.
No, you got to play through it.
Everybody go home.
Don't be a pussy, Vaughn. We all got to go to work tomorrow.
Get out of my house. Get out of my house.
Get you with it. I pay the car.
How much you want for them? French fried potatoes.
Beat.
So, Daniel Lanois has produced albums for Bob Dylan, Neil Young, Peter Gabriel, Robbie Robertson. He produced that. What was that solo Robbie Robertson record, Lou?
Robbie Robertson.
No, but what were the songs on there?
Showdown of Big Sky, Somewhere Down the Crazy River. American Roulette, Broken Arrow. Broken Arrow was a hit for Rod Stewart. And I covered it on my solo album, Pet Squirrels. But I left it off the final album.
Daniel Lanois works with people he wants to work with. He works with Emmylou Harris, Willie Nelson, a group called Spoons.
Yeah.
And Brandon Flowers.
Spoons were pretty big somewhere, I read.
Really, yeah?
Or so I have read.
Spoons or spoon, singular?
Just Spoons.
They're Canadian. Therefore, Daniel Lanois is a Canadian.
Because there's a band called Spoon without an S, just Spoon.
Yeah, that's right. No.
Spoon, yep.
Spoons. SPOONZ with a Z at the end, like a real 70s band.
But from what I read, Brian Eno asked Daniel Lanois to come and help with the U2 record that you were talking about originally, right?
And he was originally just going to be engineer, but he ended up being co-producer, and he ended up producing. I mean, there's a documentary on the making of the album, and even though I knew a lot about it, I didn't realize how intense that was. They were literally like, in 2 weeks, they had to go on a tour of New Zealand, and their manager's like, "You gotta get this album done," and they literally worked to the last day. They did a 20-hour session. That was Daniel Lanois there for that. Now that's character, because can you imagine that pressure on you as a producer? Like, this band's got to go out and tour. The album's got to get done. We have no more studio time. And it turned into the album it turned into.
Now,
then again, apparently, having a certain amount of time to do something can bring amazing things out, you know. Pressure,
exactly.
You know. Like a lot of artists have said, like Tom Petty said, you get your own studio. It took us 17 years to make the next record or whatever, you know. When you've got that time constraint and the pressure, you know.
Yep.
But this is what I like. Daniel Lanois, him and his brother were so into it that, you know, they had a reel-to-reel tape machine back in Ontario, and in their mom's basement, they set up a recording studio, and local bands would come in, and they'd start recording them on these reel-to-reels, and they got better and better and better, and he ended up buying a house in like Hamilton, Ontario, setting up a recording studio in there, and all the local bands would go, some pretty big bands too in Canada would come in and start recording there. Yep.
He was in Martha and the Muffins.
Yes. Martha and the Muffins recorded with him in Hamilton, Ontario. Yep.
Yeah. They had a song. They had a song we all heard, or it's early 80s, I think.
Yeah.
I remember, like, that was a cool band, and maybe go see somewhere. Martha and the Muffins. I'm sure Little Steven's Underground Garage has played that.
Is it bubblegum?
No. It's Canadian.
For new wave, maybe?
New wavy, yeah. Given that period, yeah. The name sounds new wavy. Yeah.
But so into it was Daniel Lanois that, he started a studio in his mom's basement. Then he ended up buying a house. And what I love about Daniel Lanois, he records in houses. Like, he recorded with Bob Dylan. I think, Lou, you're probably going to go into this, right? So I won't go into that too much. But this guy, it doesn't have to be a recording studio.
Right.
For Daniel Lanois, he can create sound wherever he is. Yeah.
And you can thank the band for doing that, making their own recording studio, cobbling together their own recording studio on a record company's budget. Like, they made their second record where they rented Sammy Davis Jr.'s house in the LA Hills and took the pool house and made it into a recording studio. They baffled the windows. They built their own studio. That record is a unique sounding record, but that kind of idea where, you're not in the record plant and, that kind of thing where it's just, but that U2 thing, I'm not sure where they recorded that album, but
U2
studio.
Martha and the Muffins had one major international hit called Echo Beach.
I want Echo. No, my life is so boring. I'm an office clerk. I
don't know how it went, but
that's Echo Beach. Oh, that's new wave. Wow, that was Daniel Lanois.
The Daniel Lanois produced them. Yep.
Yeah. Mark, you're about to say something. Where they
the Unforgettable Fire. It was recorded at Slane Castle with a very unique remote setup. But then the last 2 weeks, because it was very echoey, they had to move it back to Windmill Lane Studios for all the overdubs. The basic tracks were done at Slane Castle.
In a castle. So in other words, he can set up the equipment and catch the performance and the
He worked directly with Larry Mullen, and Larry said that he never felt appreciated as a drummer. No one had ever given him that time, and he felt that Daniel made him a better drummer. He worked with him with extreme patience, getting his skills better. And you hear it. There's a link between that and the Peter Gabriel albums. It's just a rhythmic link that you can always tell Daniel Lanois production.
Oh yeah, it's percussive. But there's a Peter Gabriel comment, but that can wait.
So,
yeah, very cool.
Yeah.
So we move on to another record.
Les, you want to move on, Lou, to which selection of Daniel Lanois do you have?
It is I think it's a great record. It has been hailed as a triumph and a comeback for this once in a lifetime on the face of rock and roll folk Mount Rushmore thing. It is Bob Dylan's Oh Mercy, 1998.
Bob Dylan's Oh Mercy.
1989. I went to Dyslexic there. Yeah, Oh Mercy.
Great album.
Yeah, it's a great album. I love it. haven't listened to it in a while, but when we were talking about Daniel Lanois, we mentioned pick an album you like. I was like, okay, that's one.
Now, where did they record it?
It was recorded. It was at Mobile Studios at 1305 Soniat Street in New Orleans, in
a house,
Louisiana.
Right?
What is the Mobile? Was it a box? Was that the?
No, the Mobile was there because it was in a house. Yeah,
right. Was the house on wheels? I don't think so.
No. They brought in a mobile recording unit.
Yeah, right.
To record in a house.
Yeah. And Lanois has actually discussed this album when he mentioned how it was made. He goes, "It's two guys sitting on the back porch." So
I read a bit about him. He enjoyed the what out of this record and making this record. Yeah.
Lanois says the same thing. Dylan describes this record as the making of it as magical, and he has a high praise for Daniel Lanois. Although I think there was some tension about things, which that's the creative tension, I would assume, but nothing I could see beyond that.
Oh, when I said that Daniel Lanois enjoyed making this record, Oh,
and Dylan too.
To no end,
Yeah, to no end, yeah. I mean, every song, the songwriting is just it's sublime. It is a peak for Dylan. I understand that the previous couple of records, Dylan and the Dead and a couple others were not received so favorably. But this was considered, the lyrics, the feeling behind this record. It's so atmospheric. Daniel Lanois, that's the whole thing. He creates atmosphere. The guitars, there's a lot of tremolo. I love tremolo. It's clean. Sounds like Fenders to me, but who knows? But they just drive the rhythm. It's amazing. It was he talks about this in his book Chronicles Volume 1. There's a whole chapter called "Oh Mercy." He writes about the making of this record, and when I read it, Perry, you lent that book to me. I was living in New Jersey. That's right before I moved to North Carolina.
I gave the book to you.
You gave the book to me
to forward to whoever you want. You give it to Mitter, give it to anyone. Yep.
But anyway, so I was reading. I heard the album when it came out in '89. And I was reading about this. When I finished it, I was talking to my wife. I said, my wife at the time, his description of New Orleans, you could feel the heat, the humidity. They're making the recording. He insisted that the recordings only happen at night.
Yes.
He goes, this is music you listen to at night.
Yes.
It's so.
He'd take off on the motorcycle for the day.
Just ride around like I picture Mickey Rourke in Angel Heart wandering around some swampy backwoods in New Orleans with alligators and and people who may not be friendly.
Yep.
But yeah, so I mean, it's the playing is great. The musicians, I don't think I've ever heard of it besides Lanois, who played guitars and other things.
Yep.
And Dylan, of course. I don't recall. Any other musicians. I don't know who they are. Except Cyril Neville.
I read that Aaron Neville would show up one day and just start, singing back up on a song or what.
Yeah. But Cyril Neville is on it with percussion. But I think he's listed as one of the musicians that is actually.
Bob Dylan left that up to Daniel to bring musicians in to complete, to make the record. Yep.
It's a lot of it is kind of somber. There's a lot of piano based, soulful, almost gospel-y.
Now, Dylan had a string of poorly reviewed albums, them. Yeah. But this one, produced by Daniel Lanois, it was hailed by critics as a triumph for Bob Dylan.
Come back.
Yep.
Yeah. And the song, I guess the lead-off single was "Everything's Broken," which is I bet you it seems like he probably just tossed it. He wrote this song like that because the lyrical cadence.
He's Bob Dylan.
At the same, it's his Bobness, Every time you hear that song, just the way he used those words, I said, "My God, who can do that? Who can do that? He can do it." It's easy when you know how.
Yeah.
His facility of language. I mean, it's been around for generations, but this album was something where he proved that he still had it. It's big time.
Oh yeah, This was 1989. So how old? He was born in 1940, 41.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, he was approaching 50. Yeah. Approaching 50. Yep. And you do hear the beginning of the now older Dylan voice, especially on "Everything's Broken."
The evolving Dylan voice, always ever evolving. Yep.
Yeah. But as it got darker, as he got older, he still has a way. It's a way with a song. It may not.
Yeah.
Like a rolling, but it's just a way with the lyric. Some of the song titles, "Political World," very topical. "Where Teardrops Fall," it's very ballady. That was almost kind of U2-y. Everything's Broken. I think that's just a great song. It sounded great on the radio. That's been covered a lot by a lot of people. It's that great. Ring
And
Them
Bob
Bells.
Dylan was a big fan of Bono. He, these are two like poets. They really bonded. Yep.
Yeah, yep. And he also said the same thing of Tom Petty and John. He goes about John Mellencamp. Dylan said he'll be around as long as anybody. And Chrissie Hynde. He said, yeah, she's as good as the rest of them.
And Bob Dylan was always a rocker too. He was always a rock and roller.
Oh yeah. Well, that's what he liked about Chrissie Hynde. He liked the fact she wrote rock and roll songs. She was the real friggin' deal.
Yeah. Yep.
Also, there's a song called "Man in a Long Black Coat." Man, God, I get the chills.
You know who covered that song?
Yeah.
You know who covered that? You know who covered that song?
The Chieftains.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer.
Really?
The Man in a Long Black Coat.
One of their worst albums, and they didn't do it justice. It was when Carl Palmer had the electronic drum sound, but they did cover it.
Wow, I was going to say, what year was that? It had to be after '89.
Yeah, in the 90s. Yeah,
they did the Black Moon, their comeback album in like 95, 96, so 97, 98 or something.
Well, you don't know how that comes to be for ELP, though. I mean, that we need some material to fill out the record. Let's do this Dylan song.
Actually, I understand that Greg Lake was also good friends with Bob Dylan.
Okay. I was saying, was Roger McGuinn on it to make a song like the Birds or something,
Yeah, 12. Wow. That's what they need. 12-string Rickenbacker. Yeah.
How many people have taken a shot at a Dylan song? Manfred Mann, the Mighty Quinn. Bob Dylan song.
That was that Basement Tape stuff, right?
It was, it was from the Basement Tapes, but still, it's not my cup of meat. So getting back to the track listing, Bob Dylan, No Mercy. Most of the time, man, just questioning. I hear self-doubt. I hear a lot of self-reflection. And the next track, I mean, it's a perfect follow-up to that. But what good am I? And he's questioning himself. After all he's done and been, he's questioning himself. What good am I? It's how much can you be for somebody? It's the depth of his writing. The song "Disease of Conceit," that was probably the one. If I could live without that one, I could. But it's not. It's a great song. It's not bad. But there's another song called "What Was It You Wanted?" That could have been on a Dire Straits record. It has that kind of first couple records, Dire Straits feel, and Mark Knopfler produced Dylan in his Christian period.
Well, didn't Dylan win a Grammy for this record? Oh Mercy.
I don't know. Was it nominated or no? It lost to Graceland. I think it was nominated, but Graceland won.
Everything lost to Graceland that year.
Yeah.
Anything lost to Graceland that year. Yeah.
I disagree. I think this should have gotten Record of the Year, but I mean, I love Paul Simon. You all know that I peed on his face in Greenwich Village.
Well, he did win a Grammy. He did win a Grammy. Dylan and Lanois worked together again for "Time Out of Mind."
Yeah.
In 1997, won a Grammy.
For reference, that little Dylan thing on Paul Simon, that was from a previous podcast show from the old days.
Yeah, I didn't want to comment on that one.
I thought that might need to clarify the comment. There's a story. Well, yeah. So anyway, but it's very evocative. I mean, I hear a lot of U2 in there and some of the things. One song, it's that Daniel Lanois atmosphere. The drums. Yeah, there's a lot of good percussion on it. Everything's broken.
There is, yep. But the thing is, like when I was reading that Dylan book about it, and like you said, the smell of New Orleans, the sweat, the humidity, whatever you want to call it,
the gumbo,
but like you said, he only wanted to record at night.
Yeah,
he'd show up maybe 8:00 at night and start recording.
Yeah,
sometimes maybe 10:00, maybe midnight, he'd start recording.
Yeah. Lanois mentioned that your body has different rhythms with the sun, the moon. We're all chemicals.
We're all water-based. Yeah.
Because there's a certain thing that you can do at night, like maybe to record some of those songs during the daytime with the sun shining. I'm thinking going out and partying with New Orleans, Dixieland. But at nighttime, it's when the vampires come out.
Yeah.
Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, and all that kind of stuff.
Classic book.
Yeah, classic book, yeah. But, and the atmosphere, you can hear it.
Yeah, but Bob Dylan had a string of poorly reviewed, poorly received records until this one with Daniel Lanois. And they're like, Bobby's back.
Yep.
Here's something not Daniel Lanois related, but I always love the cover of the album. I would love to have a big mural of it on my wall. I just learned, I don't know if you know this, the cover of the album was a mural that Dylan came across on a wall at a Chinese restaurant in Hell's Kitchen, Manhattan. And the artist Trotsky, that's the artist. I love that album cover.
Oh, so he didn't paint the album cover? Because I know he painted some of his own album covers.
Yeah, not that one.
Yeah.
Not that one?
Chinese
There's a guy in a suit and maybe a woman and a man dancing, right?
Yep.
Yeah, Bob Dylan did paint the cover for the band's first album, Music from Big Pink. That's a Dylan painting.
Oh, yeah?
Yep.
Bob Dylan, great record. Yep.
Yeah. I listened to it about 4 times. I listened to it again before we did the podcast. And it's the same thing. I'm like, wow, it's so amazing. He earns the genius title. And if you don't like his singing, just read the lyrics. Put yourself in the frame of mind that, whether it's like a Bob Dylan or a Tom Waits or a John Hyatt even.
I'm not a believer in that.
Yeah.
I'm not a believer. Right.
How
many people have said Bruce Springsteen can't sing, Bob Dylan can't sing?
Bruce Springsteen said about himself, he goes, my voice is ugly, but it's the conveyance. Read the words. Like,
right.
Maybe with voices like that, you have to write really well, but it doesn't matter because they do. And it's I don't know. I mean,
the melody. Listen, Neil Young, case in point, right? How many people would say Neil Young? What a horrible voice! This guy, I can't stand this guy's voice, right?
Yeah. Yep. I've heard people say it about Tom Petty.
Yeah. Well, guys, I'm going to say that I enjoy Dylan's voice better now, personally. His last album and Mississippi, they just flow, I mean, I love it. And you're right. Starting with that album, he started to get that gravelly voice.
Mm-hmm.
It fits for me. It just works for me. I like it.
Well, he was still smoking a ton of cigarettes back then, too. Yeah.
And, like Blue says, it matches the lyrics. Like he's telling a story in each song. And that voice will give you goosebumps like no other voice.
I think I said to you guys A Murder Most Foul. I don't know if it's off that album, Marcus.
It's off the latest album. Yes.
Latest album. When I first heard that, I heard on the local UNC channel here in Nashville, and I'm like, he's throwing in, like, what is these references he's throwing in from everywhere? He mentions Don Henley or something at one point, I'm like, but it's about the Kennedy assassination, and it's friggin' brilliant. I'm like, this guy he's gotten better. I mean, some ways he's gotten better. He
can't stop putting out good albums.
No.
My son and my son-in-law, when that album came out, they were talking about it more than me. They when we were all together, they started talking. What do you think of the Dylan? They're going through each track together, talking about the lyrics. And I said, this is great. We've got people in their 20s talking about Dylan songs.
Yeah.
This is great. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Very good production, though.
I told Louis, I said, I'm reviewing a Dylan record. And I said, I said the same thing when I saw him today. I said, just sometimes listen to the words.
Yeah, exactly. Did you not Dan Lanois related, but did you like the Mississippi album?
Sorry, guys, I had to score some more water.
The was that
Mississippi? That album.
Bob Dylan.
Was that the name of it? Oh, Perry. What was the name of the Dylan album that had Mississippi on it?
What do you mean with Daniel Lanois?
No, he came out like that year. FUV was like playing the shit out of that album.
You're gonna have to ask Steve Jobs. He was the Dylan expert.
Steve Jobs.
I'll tell you in a second.
I don't think I know the song.
Goes like Mississippi.
Oh, it's a great album. He has that album. He's got Augie Myers on it.
Didn't Bob Dylan write "Tie a Yellow Ribbon"? Right? Isn't that a Dylan song?
Bum, 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 bum.
Sounds like a Dylan song, doesn't it?
I think Dylan wrote all those bubblegum songs. He wrote Yummy Yummy. Yummy Yummy.
Right, that's a Dylan song.
In my tummy.
Major screw up. It was the album Love and Theft. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Remember that album?
No. What year? I don't have all his records, but I've heard songs. But what year?
All right, that came out in 2001. I'm pretty sure it won a Grammy. It was most critics' top album of the year. Listen to that album if you get a chance.
I will.
It's when his voice really got gravelly. But it's like I said, Augie Myers is on it. Enough said,
Augie, the song is called Augie Myers.
Lou, didn't we have a little skit where we were doing young Bob Dylan sings, "Close your eyes and I'll kiss you. Tomorrow I'll miss you. You must remember that I'll always be true."
And then while I'm away, I'll ride home every day.
Young
I'll
Bob Dylan
send all
sings
my
anything.
loving to you.
Wait, Mark Smith is going to a commercial. He'll be right back.
What is the song?
It's called "My Sunday Morning Muse." I've been writing. It's kind of a darker thing.
That's the song you're working on?
I have some lyrics in it. It goes,
"My Sunday
have a melody?
Morning Muse."
Yeah, I do, but I can't sing it in my own voice because it sounds stupid. But if I sing an old Bob Dylan, it makes sense.
What is it? Give me young Bob Dylan.
No, it's old Bob Dylan. I can't do it in young.
Oh, okay.
My Sunday morning muse, feeling all down and abused. And I don't know what it takes to find my way back to your heart. My Sunday morning muse.
That sounds like that's how Bob Dylan kind of sounds now. Yeah.
It's very minory. Yeah,
But
that was a.
But whatever book we were reading, you and I were reading, it's the
Chronicles.
But where Bob Dylan, his voice evolves.
Yeah,
he's done it all the time, even from when he changed from Nashville Skyline, right?
Oh yeah,
like whoa.
Yeah.
All right, granted, there was a lot of echo on the voice, or a lot of reverb, but it's not what Bob Dylan used to be prior to that.
Yeah.
And
right. He said he quit smoking. Yeah, he said he quit smoking for Nashville Skyline, and he goes, lay off those cigarettes, you'll sing like Caruso. But even like on Desire, that's got songs like Sarah and Hurricane. It's the old Bob Dylan, but it's a strong. His voice is very strong in that.
He evolved again. Yeah, right. Yep.
Yeah. Even on the last waltz.
Yeah.
I mean, that was that song, "Baby, Let Me Follow You Down." He's basically roughing that, screaming that song out. Yeah. So I mean, I'm sure his voice never, whatever you say about it, never gave out at a concert. He's never really lost his voice. Like George Harrison lost it during that Dark Horse.
Well, it's interesting you mention it because I love that story about where they were doing the concerts for Bangladesh, right?
Yeah.
And they weren't sure if Bob was even going to show up.
Wow.
Right? They had no idea whether he was going to be there or not. And he did. Wow. He did a couple of songs, right? Yep.
Yep.
And the great ones where George Harrison's playing behind him and
the reverence. In closing about maybe "Oh Mercy," I told you on the phone last night, Perry, but when having loved this album and just the feeling, that New Orleans flavor, when I was reading Chronicles, I was reading the chapter called "Oh Mercy." I think it might be the end of the book even. But I was living in New Jersey. We were on the cusp of moving down here in North Carolina. Anyway, it describes the record of it. I said to my wife at the time, I said, "We've got to go to New Orleans. I've never been there." I said, the way he describes this record, I want to go down there and just be sweaty and, listen to some music and drink and eat and just, eat some Cajun food and stuff. And that night, Hurricane Katrina hit and obliterated New Orleans. I woke up the next morning, put on the news. I'm like, that was weird, having just finished reading about that. And the next day it's done, That was 2005, I think, when Katrina hit.
Well, so can I go into my Daniel Lanois record? I was torn. I was torn between that Bob Dylan record. By the way, is great. He did two records with Daniel Lanois.
Right. Time Out of Mind is the other.
Time Out of Mind, but Almost Here was the first one. The one you were talking about. Yeah, and you can. And Bob Dylan, by the way he describes these things when he's talking, you can feel like you're in New Orleans when he's describing. What was he's just so great. He's a poet.
He's a poet.
He paints the picture for you.
He does.
To where you can almost smell New Orleans, right?
He can articulate what he sees through his eyes during the course
in his description. Yep.
And the it is.
That's rarity. So I was torn. I was torn between Peter Gabriel's record "So," produced by Daniel Lanois, or I was torn between a record I've heard a couple of times, and I've actually seen a documentary on it. It was Neil Young called Lanois, and they called it Lanois because it's a pun on Daniel Lanois' name. His name is spelled Nanois, which if you're not speaking French, you would think it's Lanois, right?
Yeah.
And the thing is, he recorded the Neil Young record in his house, in Daniel Lanois' house. So the Peter Gabriel record was recorded in Peter Gabriel's house, in his barn, in his wherever, in his home in Somerset.
Right. In Somerset, yeah.
Yep. And
it's next to Hampton. It's next to Hampton's Heath.
Yeah, and apparently they worked
in the province of Shropshire.
Well, actually, it's in Somerset Home. There, I don't know where it is, what province it's in, but it's a country home, I'm sure. And they worked. Daniel Lanois and Peter Gabriel worked on the movie Birdie together. Ever seen that movie Birdie?
It's a great movie.
Matthew Modine.
With Matthew Modine and Nicky Coppola.
Yep.
Nicolas Cage for those.
Nicolas Cage, Nicky Coppola, yeah,
and a great soundtrack.
They both worked on the soundtrack together. So, Daniel Lanois was invited to stay at Peter Gabriel's home to work on his next solo project.
And locked him in the house.
They brought I'm sure he has a huge estate,
Oh, yeah.
And they brought in David Rhodes to play guitar, who's been a member of Peter Gabriel's touring band for long time. And Peter Gabriel says it continued to lose this Fairlight CMI digital sampling synthesizer that he continued to use.
Yeah.
And it was, it was great, but they were all Gabriel was fusing pop, soul, art rock, all sorts of world, African and Brazilian styles on there. So this is the kind of stuff Daniel Lanois really enjoys working on, this creative level that you can work with. I mean, there was a song on here called Don't Give Up that he has a duet with Kate Bush on it. Yeah. Peter Gabriel has a duet with Kate Bush.
Great song.
And I mean, some of the songs on this record were big time, right?
Yep.
Gigantic hit. In Your Eyes, another gigantic hit.
A
that
great
was
John
parodied
Hughes
in a
song.
Will Ferrell SNL skit, In Your Eyes.
Oh, yeah?
It's one of Will Ferrell's skits.
Well, I don't watch SNL. SNL to me hasn't been funny since Will Ferrell was on the show. So I don't.
Yeah.
And Red Rain. Red Rain.
Great song.
Another one from this record, produced by Daniel Lanois and Peter Gabriel. Yep. The album received positive reviews from most critics, praised for the songwriting melodies, fusion of genres, and all sorts of things. Was nominated for a Grammy for Album of the Year.
Well deserved.
Beat out by Graceland by Paul Simon.
That was beat up by Graceland. It wasn't Bob Dylan's record. It was
beat out by Graceland, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. Wow.
And so let me get some of the, of course, the personnel on the record. You guys already know that, Tony Levin has been
the
playing
master,
right? Yep.
King Crimson. Tony Levin's a bass player on Double Fantasy, John Lennon's last record.
Yep.
King Crimson, a lot of other things. Yeah.
Stuart Copeland plays drums on a song.
Really?
I thought he played more on the record. He doesn't. He's on. He plays drums on one song, but he plays hi-hat and cymbals on Red Rain.
Yeah. And you know who plays drums on a few songs? This guy you mentioned to me last week, Manu Katché.
Manu Katché.
Manu Katché,
yeah.
Yep.
He's a drummer in Sledgehammer. That is a great groove. That song, I listened to.
That is a groove.
Today.
Yeah.
That's that's a one take. He did one take on that.
So here's what Daniel Lanois had set up with Peter Gabriel. The basic studio equipment consisted of two analog. Boy, I wish I had these. Two analog 24-track machines, Studer A80s.
Studer, okay.
24-track tape machines.
Yeah.
Tape machine. Okay.
I'm drooling.
Yep. And they use these Newman amplifiers, compressors. This is studio stuff, man.
Hello, Newman.
Yeah.
I just found it's produced Neumann. I didn't know that.
Nine.
I don't know. Neumann. Neumann.
Yeah, I was what it was.
I got some Neumann, Mike.
Newman.
Hello, Neumann. No, that was what year did this come out? 86 or 85? 86.
Well, whatever year Graceland came out, so I guess it was about 1985, 1986.
I was going to say Graceland was so
86.
big that they just took away the Grammy awards of the previous 10 years. Rumors lost the Grammy.
1987. 1987. Paul Simon, Graceland won Album of the Year in 1987.
I heard they were going to put Carly Simon in that year, but they had to wait for you. But, I mean,
because you're so vain, right? In anticipation. So,
and the spy
therefore she belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
Absolutely. The spy who loved me.
Yeah. It's it's the Simon and Schuster thing. That's what it is. It's the connection.
It's money, power, unbridled power.
But the track listing is Red Rain. Track number 1, Red Rain. Right. Track 2, Sledgehammer. Sledgehammer. Now, remember that video, that very creative video with the
that was MTV's. Apparently, as of 2011, that was MTV's most played video.
I remember. I got sick of that song because MTV had it on every damn 10 minutes.
Every damn 10 minutes. Innovative.
Now, track 3 is Don't Give Up featuring Kate Bush. Now, I'm not going to lie. I can't say I've ever heard that song.
Great song.
I'm not going to pretend I heard it. But Don't Give Up featuring Kate Bush. I'll hear it probably later on tonight or tomorrow.
It's almost gospel-y. It's very piano-based. It's not over the top, anything. But, it's a beautiful song.
And I also know that our friend Scott McLean is a fan of Kate Bush.
Kate Bush, Now, Kate Bush and Peter Gabriel, here's the thing about Red Rain. I read he's not a big fan of metallic percussion, meaning hi-hats, cymbals, whatever, anything that's...
He is not.
Right, so Daniel Lanois had to talk him into letting Stuart Copeland play hi-hats and cymbals on Red Rain. So the drummer, that's Jerry Marotta on Red Rain.
Yeah.
He played with Gabriel. Do you know what he's known for originally?
No.
He's the drummer in Orleans. Still the one. The one. That's Jerry. Jerry Marotta. He's the younger brother of Rick Marotta, a session player who I played on Asia. He's a drummer on Peg by Steely Dan and Leveling the Rest.
Clapton songs.
Well, it says here,
absolutely.
Jerome David Marotta is an American drummer who resides in Woodstock, New York.
Woodstock.
He's the younger brother of Rick Marotta, who's also a drummer and composer.
Yeah. So he definitely hangs out with Tony Levin because Tony Levin lives in Woodstock.
And Marshall Crankshaft.
Oh, yeah?
Marshall Crankshaft lives in Woodstock. And Graham Parker.
Tony Levin specializing in the Chapman stick.
Yeah.
You ever see how he does that? He puts on these big finger extenders. Yeah. It's creepy, and he just taps the strings.
Yeah.
I think he puts a Chapman stick on his Chapman lips.
And Manu Katché is a French drummer.
Tony's going to come pay a visit.
But he's from Ivory Coast, so he's from Côte d'Ivoire. They call that, right?
Listen to Mr. Continental over here. But Côte d'Ivoire.
But even Laurie Anderson is on the record. Nile Rodgers is on the record.
Yeah.
What isn't Nile Rodgers on?
Track 9. Let me find out what track 9 is. That's the one that has Nile Rodgers on it.
The one that saved the John Hughes movie.
Is that Big Time?
That's In Your Eyes.
Time. Big time, Bill. Big time.
So Nile Rodgers plays guitar on In Your Eyes. I mean, these are smash world hits.
I'm looking up at your bedroom window with a boombox. I'm not creepy.
Yeah, wow.
Perry,
was Biko on this record?
No.
That was on a previous album, but
that was on a previous record.
Let me tell you something. Perry, you do have to listen to the album because there's the songs that I like weren't so big, and what's the one? Mercy Street. That's just a great song.
Mercy Street, yeah.
And then if you want slightly disturbing, We Do What We're Told. That's a great tune.
Told to do. And his inspiration for that was people who are living under a dictatorship, and how in that type of regime, how it is now programmed into your daily thing. You obey that one thing because there's no options.
Yes.
And you want options.
So Daniel Lanois plays guitar on track 1, 2, and 4. He plays tambourine on track 2. He plays something called surf guitar on track 7. And he plays 12-string guitar on track 9.
What's track 7? What's the name of it?
That's We Do What We're Told.
Yeah.
And there's surf guitar on that. I listened to it today. I'm going to listen to it again.
Yeah. So this is full of this record is just full of people all over the place, and recorded at Peter Gabriel's house. There's the Daniel Lanois thing again. Let's record at a house, right?
Yeah, I would keep a budget down, or if there's any budget at all, except an electric bill and his fee. You know.
Well, I don't know how they work it. Maybe he got producer points on the back end. Who knows?
What I'm saying is, you're not renting time at Trident Studios at $500 an hour. You know, you're recording, doing your own thing.
Oh well, Lou. Here's what you wanted to know. Songs for the album were written and prepared in 1985 at Gabriel's home in Ashcombe House, an estate to the northeast of Bath.
Bath, yes. In the province of Shropshire. It's next to Hampstead on Heath.
This is and
it's just a flesh wound.
So the critics, of course, adored the thing. 4.5 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
All these things. Rolling Stone, of course, gave it 5 stars, 5 out of 5. And it is what it is, man. It's Daniel Lanois and Peter. This guy, Daniel Lanois, when he gets his hands on, when he decides to work, who he decides he wants to work with, it's usually comes out to be something amazing, something interesting, right?
And there's something else about Daniel Lanois. I think a couple weeks ago I was mentioning how I got so tired of that Jeff Lynne production sound.
Yeah.
I never got tired.
Sort of, But always with a click track, by the way, with Jeff Lynne.
Very dry.
With Daniel Lanois, I remember when I was first buying CDs, I bought the Robbie Robertson album, and it comes in and you hear the Daniel Lanois sound. I never got tired of his sound, and I know it. Teatro with Willie Nelson. That album, that's
a great album.
Yes.
Yep.
That is a great album.
This is why I was torn about whether going with the So record or with the Neil Young record, Lanois. Right. And like I said, I saw the documentary. So Daniel Lanois has this old house. I believe it's in California somewhere.
L.A.
And I don't know if he had these old heating ducts with these giant grates. 4 feet by 3 feet wide of these old heating grates. I don't know if there used to be a fireplace or there used to be a pipe organ in there or whatever, but he decided to put PA systems, PA speakers inside the walls of these heating grates.
Wow.
And when Neil Young was there, Neil Young said, "This is freaking amazing the way this sounds." So there's a little documentary of Neil Young live, just Neil Young playing one of his Gretsch guitars or whatever he's playing at that time live in Daniel Lanois' house. The sound is amazing, of course.
I got to see that.
Yeah, I'll send you a link to it when I find it. But it's Neil Young Lanois, by Daniel Lanois' house.
We should talk about a Daniel Lanois album because he does solo stuff. But I'm sure I've heard it. But I think there's a lot of guys where a lot of his stuff. He's such a visionary that I'm sure it's not. Here's the latest hit by Daniel Lanois. It'll be him. What he does. It'll sound like everything else he does. Yeah,
he's known for the pedal steel guitar, man.
It's funny because before the show, I was talking to Perry. Remember back in the day, I used to go up to the old Nanuet Mall, Nanuet, New York, and they had a dollar store. Now, back when you had dollar stores that were privately owned, they would put tons of CDs like that. It doesn't mean they weren't successful; they just were overstocked. So I would always thumb through and buy stuff. So I realized I bought this album, Shine. I've never listened to it. Yep. I'm going to listen to it. I had it. It was one of my dollar store finds. So,
That's awesome. That's so cool, man. Well, how about
I've seen a documentary on Daniel Lanois, and he plays pedal steel, but he doesn't. When you think of the pedal steel, you think of like country music. No. He has this ethereal, echoey.
I love
heavily echoed, and he's playing. It's almost like space age music or whatever you want to call it. That you can't describe really what he's playing.
He approaches pedal
this is
steel.
Where he's at now. He'll be in another place maybe in a few years. Who knows?
It's funny because he approached pedal steel kind of the same way Steve Howe of Yes prog player, but he played pedal steel, but he took it at a different angle. If you approach pedal steel from outside the box,
the traditional, traditional way of you would think of pedal steel guitar.
Yeah,
a lot of producers' heads they're so full of music.
Yeah,
that, you probably can't pin them down to Can Daniel Lanois write a hit song? Maybe he hasn't said this is but their vision is such that
he doesn't need a hit song. Yeah.
Well, right. The records sound like it's all in her vision. It doesn't have to be a hit song.
Well, if you listen to if you watch Sling Blade again,
I watch it all the
and
time.
all the little soft things in the background that you hear when Carl's going for a walk with his girlfriend or what it's all Daniel Lanois. All these little things in the back when Carl's just taking a walk over the bridge, by himself. It's all Daniel Lanois creating the little atmosphere in the background.
And you know what, Perry? It's true because
atmosphere.
we say, "Oh, it's a great movie." Well, it's not like millions of people said that, but it's Daniel Lanois. He created that environment, that small town in Texas.
Yep.
Yeah.
Erie. Yeah. Boy,
Don't be a pussy, Vaughn. We all got to work tomorrow.
And I would say that sound he does. I mean, to me, like the Dylan record is very American. Even U2, they wrote Angel of Harlem. U2 loves everyone loves American music. Excuse me. But to me, he's got that sound. He's perfect for producing that kind of music.
you brought up a good point, Lou, because U2, when they did Unforgettable Fire, it was their first album with themes of Americana. They had Pride and MLK, 2 songs.
Right.
And then they went full tilt with Joshua Tree. And who brought them into Americana? Daniel Lanois.
Right.
Yeah.
Now, Brian Eno's English, isn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
He's from Shropshire.
He's from Shropshire, next to Hampstead on Heath.
I like watching the early footage
on the
Roxy
Thames
Music with Brian Eno, the early Brian, when he was in Roxy Music.
He was in the band, yeah.
Yeah, for the early, and he was playing, I don't know, he might have been playing a Moog, man. I don't know.
Did you see his getup, his stage getup? He had he looked like from the Rocky Horror Picture Show. He had the same big shoulders, and he's like,
and a giant mullet or something, right?
Yeah.
Wow.
By the way, Roxy Music is touring. They're back together.
Yeah, I was never a fan. I got to say, I can't pretend that I am a fan. I am not.
Avalon was my favorite album.
That's a great song. They have some. I don't have any albums, but some of their songs. Like "Love Is a Drug" is a good song. But Avalon, More Than This. I mean,
More Than This. That was on Avalon.
More Than This. That was the new romantic sort of.
Oh yeah.
Phase, right?
He was that guy with those. He looked so world weary. He was just so weary.
Damn, Perry, that was great. That was a great performance.
Really?
More than this.
Can you do Avalon, Perry?
I'm not sure how that song goes. Avalon.
No, Avalon.
That's the same one.
It's all the same.
Actually, that was their last album, and it was their most commercial. It was slick, but it was a good slick. It was perfectly recorded.
Yeah.
Just
who I'd like to talk about in a future show? The Psychedelic Furs.
Yeah.
They are like... who produced Steve Lillywhite? I think produced some of the Psychedelic Furs.
I believe so.
Didn't he?
Yeah, and he did Simple Minds. I think
I've heard some Psychedelic Furs. I'll wait till we talk about them because I have a revised opinion.
Love My Way.
Yeah, they're good.
Their songs were used in a lot of movies too. A lot of John Hughes movies.
Oh yeah,
Isn't she pretty and pink? Yeah. And then
She's
I think
so pretty.
I think they originated that phrase. Go away. Go away.
Do you guys want to go into some one-hit wonders?
Not yet. I think
not yet. Where are we?
If you want to be in a cool English band, name yourself Ian something, and have a
Ian
song
something.
Go away.
Ian
Astonbury. Ian something.
Go away today.
Go away today.
And
go
you'll have a hit.
I think Oasis has a song that goes, "Go away today."
No. Oasis.
You have to also say, "I can't go away."
No, Oasis doesn't say "go away." They go "fuck off." That's what they say.
I can't go away today.
I was at a party recently. I was playing my guitar, and someone said, "Can you play any Oasis?" And I said, "Maybe." Now I know our friend Scott McLean from the great Milk Crates and Turntables podcast is a big Oasis fan.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'd like to, let's give Scott a shout out.
I thought he was a big Green Day fan.
Show.
I thought Scott was a big Green Day fan.
No,
he hates them and the Ramones. Well, listen. I apologize to Scott again for taking your show on Wednesday. Right. It's a great show. Scott's a great guy. He does great stuff on his show. Lots of music and discussion.
In addition to talking about music, he's freaking hilarious. But let me just say one thing about Oasis. When we have Ken and my son-in-law on the show, he will give a whole nother side to, because we were older when Oasis came out. He was growing up. That was like his generation's Led Zeppelin. So it's interesting to hear another take. That's why.
So we have to talk about Oasis when Tekena comes on? Oh, well, okay.
Yeah, because you know what? We're not allowed to talk about REM. We're not allowed to talk about Steve Wilson. We're not allowed to talk about
Blue Oyster Cult. Blue Oyster Cult.
Albert Bouchard. Godzilla.
Xenagod.
Bodily functions.
The Oyster Cult. All right, you know what I've got
it's
for you?
It's our show, damn it. What do you got?
No.
I've got a trivia question for you.
Lou's going to win.
Wait. Is it a trivia question or one-hit wonder?
It's a trivia question.
Okay.
It's a rock and roll trivia question.
Okay, you can ask me first, but you remember on Scott's show, I was the first one to go 0-5. I couldn't get any of the questions, so you're going to stump me. You know that.
I didn't even try anymore. And I have a music relish fun fact.
All right. You want to do the fun fact, or you want to wait till after this question?
Why don't we do the fun fact first, because it's real simple.
Let's do So you have a fun fact?
I do. It's a calendar thing. On this day, 6 years ago today, you and Tom Griffin came down to visit me. And it was 6 years ago today where we recorded the song. Do you remember the song of yours that we recorded?
Yeah.
You remember what it's called?
It was called
Island of Trouble.
Island of Trouble.
Island of Trouble. It was 6 years ago today. That was the last time I saw you in the flesh.
I don't have a copy of it to play.
I got it.
Right?
I have it.
I don't have it right here loaded up on
No. I don't think we ever did a final mix. I gave you something to bring back home.
You gave me something that had to be edited down. Yeah. Yep.
Anyway, that was 6 years ago. Was that 2016?
Dang.
September 18th, 2016.
Dang. All right, so let me ask you this question. Let me ask you, Mark. Let me ask Mark, the wine connoisseur, and Lou, the sommelier from Somalia. Jimi Hendrix only had one top 40 hit. Jimi Hendrix only had one top 40 hit. Can you tell me what it was?
All Along the Watchtower.
I agree. All Along the Watchtower.
Bobby Dylan's.
I was right.
You guys suck.
We both got it.
Yeah.
You guys suck.
So,
all right. So you know what? I've got a one-hit wonder. You have a one-hit wonder, Lou? Do you want me to stump you with mine?
Go ahead. Go for it.
Mark?
Go for it.
All right. Let me find it here. I'm just going to play the intro and see if you guys can guess the name of this song. Here we go. Are you ready? Yeah.
Ready.
Yeah.
It's not playing.
Land the plane, Barry. Land the plane.
I can't land the plane.
It's a quiet song.
Technical difficulties.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Let's do our fundraising segment now.
Lou, you're going to have to do your one-hit wonder.
For 120 a
I've
month.
overloaded my system.
Oh, no.
With bubblegum.
All right. This is, unless I'm wrong, there's only one hit one I could find by this band. It's a cover of an African-American work song that has been credited to the famous, legendary Huddle Ledbetter, otherwise known as
Leadbelly.
Leadbelly. It has Bill Bartlett, formerly of the Lemon Pipers, on it. It was produced by the team of Kazanitz and Katz that we were talking about. From, what was that record company they did?
Super K Productions.
Super K Productions, the kings of bubblegum pop. The song is Black Betty by Ram Jam.
Oh, jeez.
That's their only hit. That's definitely.
Their only hit.
Wait a minute, you're saying that's like a Leadbelly song?
It's a Leadbelly song, yeah, man.
Oh, no. Go ahead.
I had no idea.
Do it.
All right, here we go. Will we get in trouble or not? YouTube, whatever. Sorry, people.
That's old Black Betty, bam, a lamb, right?
I don't want to play anymore because we're going to get sued.
Is that So? Is that how the Lead Belly version? I doubt that's how the Lead Belly version.
Oh hell no!
Did you ever see the video for that song? It's so funny. It's like literally in someone's backyard. You can tell they're drunk as shit.
Yeah. I think that's a great sounding recording. Now that was produced by Kasanitz and Katz.
That was really produced by Kasanitz and the
Kasanitz. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What year was that?
Oh shit!
I'm going to go get the papers.
No. I'm thinking 72, maybe 71, 72.
Was that far back? Really?
Early, yeah.
That's like Southern rock, man.
Oh yeah, it definitely is.
Yeah.
Now Ram Jam is. I think it's not one of those bands that was like. And Bill Bartlett was on the Lemon Pipers. You know what their big hit was? My green tambourine.
Hey, stereo.
That was a number 18 on the U.S. singles charts. Ram Jam, Black Betty, one hit wonder.
And do you know
Betty,
who,
bam, a lamb, yeah.
Black Betty had a baby.
Does
the drum break on that is great. Yep.
Does anybody remember Tom Jones' cover of it?
Yes, he did. Yes, he did.
Good. It was good.
Yes, he did. Tom Jones is great.
All right, let me see if I can come up with something here. Hold on.
What was your thing?
Oh, let me just say something.
Do it on YouTube?
Black Betty may refer to the nickname given to a number of objects: a bottle of whiskey, a whip, or a penitentiary transfer wagon.
There you go.
Yeah. Right. Dark stuff.
Yeah. Dark stuff, yeah. And she had a baby. Going back in this, you think of the historical context going back then. So, yeah. Wow. I wonder how they dug that out.
Yeah, right? They hit gold with that one.
Damn.
Oh, yeah. And that ties in with the bubblegum because that was Kasanitz and Cat.
Simple
Super
production. Yeah.
Yummy, yummy, yummy.
Well,
I got love in my tummy.
You know, I was just thinking of a Simple Simon Says, Scooby Dooby Doo. Where are you? Right? It's just pop.
1, 2, 3, red light.
Cha la 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 la. Honey, bum 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 bum.
Yeah.
Oh, sugar.
Yep.
So the Beatles
splits.
Beatles were bubblegum.
Chewy, rich and gooey. Nya, 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 nya.
How about na 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 na? That's bubblegum, right? Come on, Hey Jude.
That was the Beatles.
Hey Jude. I don't know.
That was bad. So what you got, Perry?
I got nothing, man. I don't even think I'm going to be able to play the closing theme. We're going to have to.
Oh no,
we're going to have to wing it.
He's overloaded,
guys. Yeah, I have to recommend an album to you guys.
That's right.
Oh yeah,
turn.
yeah. Have you got an album to recommend?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend it to you. Don't worry, it's not some 70-minute prog album. You'll be slogging through. I am going to recommend to you the very first Zebra album, Zebra. Now, it's not on Spotify, so I will send you a link to you that you can listen on YouTube. And another huge album of my youth.
Okay. Was that the first one that had to...
Tell me what you want.
That's her first album.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was the biggest selling debut album at the time. Like no other band in the history of rock had a bigger selling debut. Because in 83, we were coming off people wanted to hear Led Zeppelin. Randy Jackson sounded like Robert Plant. So it was huge. That was all over the radio. But it's a phenomenal album. So I want you guys to listen to it.
All right. What's the album called? Is it called Zebra?
Zebra.
Okay.
Zebra.
Zebra.
What year was it out?
83. And it was produced by Jack Douglas, only 4 years removed from doing Double Fantasy. He did a debut album by an unknown group. Pretty wild.
He was also a producer of some Aerosmith records, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Or Zebra from New York? Are they New York?
They're a unique band. They're originally from New Orleans, but they moved to Long Island in the 70s. My sister always talked about seeing them because before they did original material, they were like big on the cover scene, and Randy Jackson could sing Led Zeppelin like no one else. So my sister used to see them all the time. They got signed to Atlantic. They wrote great music, and I'll give you the history of the band. I still see them live every chance I can get. Randy's pushing 67, 68, and he still can sing those high notes. Amazing.
And Guy Gelso on drums.
Yes. Great drummer. He's got that New Orleans behind the beat, jazzy feel when he plays. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
All right. Sounds good.
Well, okay. So, what do you think, guys? Think it's about
It's a wrap.
Yeah,
We're
we
6
did
minutes
2
short of
hours.
2 hours.
Yeah. And I only had one glass of wine the whole time.
wow. Okay.
You believe that? I got a bridge to sell you.
Well, you know what? We're just going to have to sign off then.
There's a lot of sleight of hand going on off camera. I think that's it. That's it for this week.
Is a card shark, yeah.
It for this.
Well, you know what? I had a blast, guys, and
Me
you
too.
know what? We'll talk soon, and
So
see
are
you
we
next
going to
time.
wait? Are we going to wait for your one-hit wonder for next time?
Yeah, next time I'll save it up for next time. Yep.
All
And
right.
for all
And,
you all you Patreon people, the after show party's next, but only if you coughed up $100. So
Right. Only the cool kids can get
I don't
into
know
that.
what you guys are talking about. I
There's an after party.
don't
Dancing
know what
girls.
you guys are talking about, man.
I don't know. Oh, we forgot. I forgot to tell you.
Nothing. All right, so you know what, guys? I'll see you next week, right?
See you next week.
Have a good night. Farewell, everyone.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye.
Bye.
Somebody want Mark? You want to play a farewell theme?
You're not gonna play the outro song?
I can't access it right now.
Okay, here we go.
You were the music relish. Podcast. Music relish. Podcast.
Okay, that was my samba version of Stairway to Heaven. Goodbye, guys.
Good night. Good night from Music Relish Podcast. Catch us out there on whatever, however you listen to podcasts, and see you around. Bye.
Oi.